Elon Musk, oh my gosh. I was just preparing you guys a big video on a bunch of other subjects, and this news just came out, breaking news here. I'm like, I have to cover this real quick for you guys and let you know what's going on here and kind of my 2 cents on this. Judge voids Elon Musk's $56 billion Tesla compensation. Shares slide. A Delaware judge voided Elon Musk's $56 billion compensation package at Tesla. Tesla shares are down about 3% after hours. The plaintiff is entitled to a rescission. Delaware court judge Kathleen McCormick wrote in her ruling agreeing Musk's pay package was inappropriately set by Tesla's board. Delaware judge on Tuesday voided the $56 billion pay package of Tesla CEO Elon Musk, ruling the company's board of directors failed that the compensation plan was fair. What? Tesla shares price, I did not see this one coming. Tesla shares price slid 3% after hours following the news. And this is because of some sort of lawsuit that was filed by Richard Tornetta, a shareholder, which, you should be a pretty happy shareholder if you've held Tesla since 2018. Let's just call that a very happy shareholder. The plaintiff is entitled to a rescission, Delaware court judge Kathleen McCormick wrote in her ruling, agreeing that Musk's pay package was inappropriately set by Tesla's board. Quote, the parties are to confer on a form of final order in implementing this decision and submit a joint letter identifying all issues, including fees, that need to be addressed to bring this matter to a conclusion at the trial level. The 2018 CEO pay package that Tesla granted Musk was unparalleled in corporate compensation plan in history and made Tesla and SpaceX boss, obviously, richest person in the world. And so I'm looking at this and as a Tesla shareholder back then, I was happy they did this plan. I'll just be honest with you guys. And the reason I was happy about this is if you look at the way that pay package was set, Tesla needed to hit certain numbers and the market cap of the company or stock price needed to go to certain levels. And I love it if a CEO is very incentivized by the company doing better and better over the years. And guess what? Elon Musk, I think he hit every single number he was supposed to hit, or pretty dang close to it, in regards to that pay package. Now you might say, okay, what does Elon Musk say about this whole situation? Well, Elon Musk just tweeted this out right now. Never incorporate your company in the state of Delaware. What a huge, huge situation this is, folks. So we're going to see where all of this goes, but I can tell you that this is, one is, if the compensation plan did not have to be paid to Tesla, that has whole implications because it's so much money. It has whole implications in terms of the company maybe being in actually a little better financial situation than it's already in, but then that risk. My thing is, I don't think Elon Musk is going to leave Tesla over this, because I don't believe this has anything to do with Tesla versus him. This was a lawsuit that was filed by supposedly a shareholder of Tesla, and a Delaware judge, right, in their decision making. Now, this goes back into Elon Musk has decided over the past year or two to get obviously much more into the political field, right? And I just come back to something like this, and I think if he did not decide to go certain ways in regards to his political stance and buying X and all those sorts of things, I don't know if this has trouble getting through. I'll be honest, does this get blocked? If he never does some of the things, and we'll never know the answer to this, right? Unless we can find some parallel universe that we can see if different situations played out. I don't know if this situation turns out this way, if maybe he never bought X. Because I can just tell you, when you start getting into politics and when you start, wanting to make certain views out there more and more popular, there's ramifications for that, as there is for everything in life, right? And so, maybe this would have been the same situation regardless, or maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't have been, right? Maybe a little conspiracy theory. So we'll see where all this goes. Am I going to sell my Tesla stock based upon this? And the answer to that is absolutely not. No. Once again, I don't think this is something where it's Tesla versus Elon Musk. I think this is more a judge in Delaware versus Elon Musk. That's my personal opinion on this. I also don't think it's Tesla's board of directors versus Elon Musk. And so this does not make me say, I've got to go out there and sell Tesla stock. If anything, and the stock's down big for any reason, I might be inclined to buy some shares. But we know Tesla's in a big fear period right now. And so anything seen as potentially negative can send the stock down short term. Obviously, that's what's happening here. So, yeah, man, crazy situation. Next one up here, Tesla begins China Cybertruck tour in 8 cities. Ooh, what's going on here?
Truck tour in China, and it's been getting a lot of social media buzz there ahead of this trip. Our Eunice Yoon joins us live from Beijing with more on what's at stake for Tesla. Hi, Eunice.
Hey, Mike. Well, the Cybertruck is on display at the Tesla store behind me. This weekend, the company started showcasing the futuristic new vehicle in 8 Chinese cities, including here in Beijing. Now,
the bears haven't even factored in how big of a hit Cybertruck's going to be in China. They haven't even factored it in yet. Oh,
continues to be a fan favorite among EV drivers here, despite the fierce competition by local brands. One of the criticisms, though, of Tesla is that it doesn't refresh its models quickly enough, especially when compared to some of its Chinese rivals. Now, for this Cybertruck, Tesla has not officially announced that the Cybertruck would come here to China. In fact, Elon Musk has gone on record as to say that it's going to be difficult. And one of the issues has been the regulatory environment, especially around trucks. But one point that was really interesting and picked up upon by a lot of the fans is that the name of the Cybertruck in Chinese avoids the word truck. So that's seen as a way for Tesla perhaps to eventually launch the Cybertruck here. Guys?
Yeah, see, this is just so huge because, Cybertruck could be massive in China. Absolutely massive. China's not really, people don't really think about China as like a truck place. But I'm just telling you, that is so up their alley. You have no clue. Like, that is so perfectly fit for China in terms of the way the vehicle looks, how different it is. People will eat that thing up. And everybody's just thinking about the United States opportunity, which we know Tesla can literally make as many Cybertrucks as they can and sell them all, right? So whether it's 100K, 200K, 300K a year, whatever the number is, right? But like, people haven't even factored in like how big of a hit this could be in China. And I'm like, it could be much larger long term, if we're thinking 5-7 years out, than it is in the United States of America.
I wonder, aside from just sort of the names and what the implications are, in the U.S., of course, pickup trucks are the most popular type of vehicle. What's the case in China in terms of that ready kind of appetite for something that, even vaguely looks like a pickup truck?
Right. Well, it's interesting because here you really can't get a pickup truck, or if you do, you're not able to drive into the city, like into some of the kind of more packed areas. So there are a lot of regulations around it. And that's why it's interesting that in the name, people love to see these big cars. They love driving them. That's what they were talking about, is that everyone's impressed by the size. They love the look. They were talking about how it looks like an armored vehicle. People loved it. But the regulations are such that they don't allow what would be considered a pickup truck into the kind of more packed parts of the city. So the fact that it was called an urban traveling wagon, maybe not so catchy, but maybe it could get you around some of the regulations.
That's hilarious. As I always say, Elon and the team, they'll figure it out. Have trust. They'll figure it out. Tesla's dead money for the next few months, but I'm still bullish long term. Bryn Talkington will react to that one. Alrighty, guys, let's get into this.
Missed on expectations around revenues and earnings. So of the 10 or 11% it's down, that's probably a third of the reason. To me, the 2/3 reason, the other 2/3, is that when it comes to guidance for 2024, that margins, we're not sure. So Elon was being honest, but the market doesn't want lack of clarity, and also volume growth. So I think the stock is down appropriately, being the lack of positive guidance, and they missed the reduced numbers to begin with. I think that as in like short term, the stock is in no man's land. You want to see that stock base out at 180. If it can't base that, you're going to be in the 160s. So, rule number one, do not buy a stock on a day like today. You have to see that flush out. As you know, I entered the stock around 120 and 150. I sold calls on some of those that got called away at a higher price. I'm just in the stock right now. I would look over the next couple of months. So I think it will be dead money over the next couple of months. Once things settle, I'm long-term bullish on the name. I think the manufacturing prowess is...
Okay, before she goes further here, is Tesla dead money? Should you have been buying Tesla yesterday or this morning or things like that? Okay, so first off, is Tesla dead money? The answer is Tesla's a different stock. People will always want to treat, this is where people make a lot of cardinal sins in regards to Tesla. Tesla's not the average stock in the market. There is a belief that, you could let stocks flush and, certain stocks will be dead money for a while, things like that. That's normal stocks. Tesla's not a normal stock. It never has been a normal stock. It never will be a normal stock. This stock, the sentiment can change in a snap of fingers, from extremely bearish to also extremely bullish, and that can happen in a few months. It doesn't take a year, 2 years, 3 years for the sentiment to shift in regards to Tesla. And I've seen it go from very, very bullish, people are very excited, to very, very bearish very quickly. And so this is a whole different stock. And so at the end of the day, when it comes to a stock like Tesla, you get great buy the dip opportunities. You got to take advantage of those as soon as you get them, because things could change so much in a matter of a few months, and you don't want to always be banking that the stock's going to stay down or it's going to go lower, things like that. Tesla's not your average stock. It's never been, it never will. Well, I don't say never will be, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Okay, it's a whole different situation. It's a cult stock. It's an crazy growth company, obviously over the years. Maybe not 2024 might not be that sort of year, right? But look at the growth rates over the past 10 years. Think about where Tesla will be 10 years from now, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that think 10 years from now, it's doing $1 trillion of revenue. $1 trillion of revenue. I mean, yeah, they did a little less than 100 billion. And who's to say they can't? They just scaled. 2013, this company did $2 billion in revenue. And this past year, 2023, they did nearly $100 billion of revenue. So who's to say they can't go from 100 billion to $1 trillion?
Incredible. But right now, you really just can't touch this name, because I think the sellers will continue, and the price revisions are going to continue to come out the next couple of days.
Hey, Brandon, it's Josh. Good to see you. I wanted to ask you what percentage probability you would place on the idea that there's going to be some other vehicle through which Elon Musk expresses his next generation technology ideas away from Tesla. Maybe it's at Starlink, maybe it's at SpaceX generally, or maybe something we haven't thought of, like the Boring Company, that he files an LLC and they're off to the races. Is that like a big risk, and what percentage probability would you place on that risk?
I don't think it's a big percentage at all, because there are, like, full self-driving ultimately is where the AI technology is. And so he talked about on the call, no other automaker saying, hey, can we license your full self-driving? That is where all of the AI technology, that's where all the amazing engineers there. I think that is a low probability. To put some context, Josh, on your comment about what he said the other day about maybe I'm not going to be interested in doing AI or new projects here because I don't own enough of it. He was asked about that. And what he says is that, and I get it, but I mean, he sold the stock. He said, I don't want to have control. I want to have influence, because I don't want an activist shareholder who knows nothing about the name, except for it hasn't done well over X amount of time, coming in and exerting more control than he has. So I think over the next few months, the board's going to have to work something out, because Elon and Tesla are inextricably combined. You can't have one without the other. But I do not think he's going to take away from Tesla to just go innovate somewhere else, because it's too embedded in the FSD.
Yeah, and I think another component people got to factor in here, with this whole worry about like Elon's going to do AI at some other company, not Tesla. Huge factor I think just people are missing. Who builds AI? People. So let's think about this logically for a moment, right? Would you rather work at some random no-name company, or would you rather work for Tesla? Of course, like 99% of people I say I'd much rather work for Tesla. Its brand name is you can say it to almost anybody. Say, oh, wow, you work on AI for Tesla? Like, that's a huge deal, versus some no-name company or the Boring Company or whatever. Like, no, okay. Like, at the end of the day, like, pride is a huge factor in regards to humans, and especially males specific. And so people want to work for Tesla. That's the bottom line with that. And so people want to work for Elon, but they also want to work for Tesla. And to be known as somebody that works for not just Elon, but for Tesla, it's a big factor, okay? Alrighty, next one up here. Mass EV adoption is a lot harder than early adoption. Ooh, okay.
Former Ford Motor Company president and CEO and a CNBC contributor. I guess we had no idea about any potential problems until Tesla said that, Mark. I guess they meant if Tesla says it, then there really is something happening here. I guess that's kind of what we meant there. That was the latest. It's a centipede or a millipede, and that was just another one of the shoes to drop, but it involved Tesla.
By the way, before we go further, if you haven't smashed the like button, please smash the like button. And if you haven't subscribed here, you should. Oh, there it is. There's a like button right there. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already subscribed here to the channel. Appreciate you.
And Joe, when you look at the EV market, you're starting to see the EV market, the growth in the EV market acceleration kind of slow down. And, for lack of a better term, if you look at the last year, the market share of EVs was up about 2.5 points versus the previous year. But in the second half of the year, you saw that growth kind of slow down. So, not to say it's kind of running out of gas, but, you are starting to see now as you go for mass adoption, that's a lot harder than early adoption. And when you see some of the concerns from consumers around, we've talked about in the past around cost and the charging network and repairs and insurance costs, I think one of the bigger things that's emerged for consumers is the residual values because, they performed very poorly, EVs overall in residual values. A lot of that has to do with the price cuts that Tesla took. So if a consumer thinks their vehicle is going to be worth a lot less, overlay that with, a lot of new products coming into the market this year, which will increase the number of EV offerings about 50%. It's shaping up to could be a very difficult year selling EVs from a pricing standpoint and a market environment.
Mark, what we've seen is almost a perfect storm. It's one, like I said, it's one shoe to drop after another. And I want to go back to some of the decisions you made at Hertz. Did things really change? And take us back. You decided that Hertz was going to buy a lot of EVs. The news recently that, it sort of shook everyone was that Hertz totally backtracked on half of the purchase that it was going to make because no one wants to rent an EV. Was that a big screw up on your part to order all those EVs or did the dynamics change that much in the last couple of years?
Well, listen, Joe, when we made that decision at Hertz, we saw the EV market growing and we made a bet as a company that said, listen, being a first mover in understanding how to manage EV fleets is going to pay off for us over the long term. And so we were first movers. We've learned a lot. But listen, like any good business that lays out a strategy, when you see the market environment change pretty markedly, you have to make corrections. And in this case, as you heard from the CEO at Hertz, Steve Scheer, we saw demand less than we expected. We saw repair costs higher, but most importantly, the biggest cost in a rental car company, Joe, as you know, is depreciation. And when your main supplier cuts prices 20%, which we haven't seen, in recent automotive history, that hits our income in a really big way. So, the company made adjustments as they should. But the bet is still, I think, the right one because you're going to continue to see EVs over time, slower than everybody expected, become more and more, part of the industry. And, Hertz will be well positioned for that. But, they had to react to the market conditions.
Being a first mover.
From what I heard, there's some people in the private stock group and things like that know Tesla very well and pay attention to every little thing that Tesla's doing and up to and things like that. From what I heard, Hertz did a horrible job of rolling out Tesla in terms of, the experience of like renting EV. I heard they made it just bad. It was just a bad experience overall. So from my understanding, it's more of a Hertz screw up than like people not wanting EVs, because people clearly want EVs. Like Tesla just came off of a massive record year of selling EVs, and people want to rent Teslas. But if Hertz like screwed it up, like, or, you know, not just that, but then he talks about the depreciation factor there. Yeah, you know, maybe it's a little playing around with the numbers and trying to get some certain things off your books.
Worry that we've got an administration or a government that decided it's going to be the first mover on this. And I think where we are right now, Mark, could be the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot of things may not say solvent long enough to wait for that eventual all-in transition to occur. I mean, these emission standards and number of EVs that need to make up the percentage of you know, how many vehicles are on the road, all these things are going to get pushed way back, because you can lead a horse to water, but consumers aren't drinking. They're not drinking. And this could be the beginning of a really ugly period for investors and a lot of other people that just went whole hog with the Biden administration.
Well, Joe, you know, we all know the track record of government kind of picking technologies that consumers going to want. It's not particularly good. And you rightfully said, listen, they laid out regulations and they went out of their way to say, listen, we're not telling you what technology to use. But they knew very well that with the regulations that they set in terms of fuel economy standards, that electrified vehicles were the only way that the automakers could achieve that. I think, you know, at the end of the day, from a consumer standpoint, Joe, today, as you get to mass adoption, the purchase of an EV is completely discretionary. And so when you lay over some of the concerns that, you know, I mentioned a little earlier, you know, combined with an economy that's somewhat uncertain, you know, from a pricing standpoint, it could be a tough year for selling EVs. It's going to continue to grow, but automakers are going to have to make a choice. Do they potentially cut prices to stimulate demand, or do they live with undercapacity utilization at their plants? Either way, that could hit their margins.
And Mark, real quick, one of the things that Elon Musk said on his call.
One of the big mistakes I think a lot of these traditional traditional automakers are making in regards to getting into the EV market is they're just basically trying to make whatever vehicle they have and make it an EV, right? For instance, I believe I just saw my first Ford Lightning. I don't think I've ever seen a Ford Lightning in person, but I saw one last night. And looking at it, I'm like, it just looks like a normal Ford truck, right? And so it's just an old story of like, let's try to take what we've got and just try to make it the new technology, right? Which is usually not a good thing, because you're not just making auto, you're making something technology. And one of the worst things you could do as a technology company is just say whatever we got is what we got, and let's just try to put the software in it we needed or something like that, right? Like, you need a fundamental change. For instance, smartphone industry, you know, the iPhone comes out, it's a fundamental change in the way a phone looks. Like, phones didn't look like the iPhone looked at that particular time. It's a fundamental shift, right? And then other phone manufacturers, they try to make smartphones that looked very different than the iPhone, and they failed. And so we have a story here where, you know, these other automakers are failing massively because they're trying to make EVs look like traditional autos looked, and it's like it's a whole different ball game, right? And so the consumer perception's different. And so, you know, you think about the Model 3, seeing the Model 3 for the first time, I mean, so fundamentally different than anything you've seen in the market. Look at the Model X, so fundamentally different than anything you've seen in the market, right? You know, like, that's an EV, that's a Tesla. You see the Cybertruck, massively different than anything you see in the market. So I just think Elon's got the right approach. Like, we're doing a whole different product here. We're going to look different than everybody else. I think it's been pretty genius so far, and it's going to continue to be genius.
I think a lot of people were not surprised about, perhaps maybe surprised he said it aloud, is that he believes that some of the Chinese vehicle makers, EV makers, are doing a much better job than the EVs that are coming out of the United States. How much of you think this is a product problem?
Wait, hold your horses for just a moment. Hold your horses, okay? This is not even a big statement. Like, if you did not realize that already, what rock have you been hiding under in regards to this whole situation? Like it's clear as day. China has the best EV companies in the world. They have not only Tesla, but they have many others, BYD and others, right? They have the best. Like, look at what the United States is putting out for products. it's not compelling at all outside of Tesla. And that's why none of these guys can move their EVs other than Tesla.
About the infrastructure issue in terms of charging stations and the like, but he's saying, look, it's Tesla and the Chinese companies, and he was saying that without tariffs, actually, that the American automobile makers, their lunch would be eaten if like BYD was able to just not flood the market, but even sell them at competitive prices.
Well, clearly, Andrew, as you know, from the Chinese EVs, their cost basis is significantly lower than Western companies. Now, part of that was probably driven by government incentives because, the Chinese government 15 years ago said, hey, listen, we missed out on being a leader in ICE engines.
He's talking strictly about prices. I think he's talking about the quality of the vehicles, the feature set, just how good they are.
Yep. That's what he's talking about.
Well, listen, they have absolutely upped their game on quality versus where they were 10, 15 years ago. It's a different level of quality, probably matching the Western automakers. I think the other thing, when you think about the product content there, listen, Chinese consumers, they really go from a digital first perspective. So in their vehicles, they want the latest electronics. They want the latest, digitally enabled features linked to their phones, et cetera. The U.S. consumers are somewhat different. But your point being, and Musk's point yesterday, is, listen, they have a big competitive advantage. And, I think one of the advantages that Tesla has versus maybe some of the other Western automakers is they're competing with the Chinese on their home market. And when you're competing at the coalface with one of your toughest competitors, you become better overall, not only in that market, but around the world. So I think this is going to play out really interestingly, from a political standpoint, from a tariff standpoint here in the U.S. But it's very clear the Chinese have upped their game in a very big way with EVs.
Yeah, and oh man, it's just so funny. It's just so funny. Yeah, and do I believe Elon Musk is probably right about that? Yeah, I think he is probably right. I think if the Chinese companies could come here, I think they would probably crush competition. So, and it is very possible that some of those Chinese companies could manufacture vehicles in the United States over time. We'll see where all that shakes out at. But yeah. Alrighty, guys. Appreciate you joining me. Thanks so much. As always, much love. Thanks for being subscribed to the channel. If you're looking to join my Patreon, pin comment down there. Join us in there and the Discord chat. Plus, get to see the moves I made here today and in future weeks. Much love and have a great day.